What's going on, everyone? This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing, and we're getting ready here for our live session here during the New York session. For all of those just joining us for the live stream, welcome. Glad that you're here, ready for another great session together. If anyone missed yesterday's replay, highly recommend it. Fantastic. Anyone joining us now on the replay, feel the same way. Glad you're here with us now, watching the replay. We're going to start off finding out what's going on in the markets together, getting set up here. We're going to be starting here. This is looking at a chart of the US dollar, Japanese yen, but it says the DXY in there. Let me go ahead and reset that with you. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. So, all right, guys, let's get started. We'll take it slow and get into it. First of all, on the calendar, what's going on? Not too much. All right. Later this evening, you have retail sales out of Australia. The big thing is tomorrow. It's non-farm payrolls, and that will be at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. What's happened in the meantime? All right, let's start off with the dollar index, and this is most heavily weighted towards the euro and the yen, but it is a basket of currencies versus the dollar. And we see that we have, as we expected yesterday, come up past this resistance line over here. I'm just going to go ahead and turn this over not only to support, but it's light support now. It's light resistance. More importantly, we're up in this area over here. This is a really important area, twofold. Number one, we expect that maybe price might get rejected up in this area and resume downwards. Okay, what does that mean? That means there could be a lot of different setups occurring on US dollar pairs. For example, on the Australian dollar, US dollar, the Canadian dollar, US dollar, the US dollar, Canadian dollar. We're going to look at both of those this morning to see if there's any potential there. Although that's a little preemptive, right? Why? Well, we have that number, that the non-farm payrolls tomorrow morning. That's going to be a big catalyst. I expect until that number, what I'm perceiving is going to happen is that there's a good chance we're going to be up in this area here. And of course, that could be anywhere all the way down to this support down here. But somewhere in this area. And then depending on what happens with that number, we'll see what the next move is. Does that mean because we're at this resistance right here that we're automatically going to get rejected to the downside? It does not. We could break out of this channel to the upside, come into this resistance here. That would be the next step. Most likely get rejected by that resistance, come back down and test that channel again to see if it holds as support. But, who knows? That's just one scenario. Another scenario is this. We don't know what's going to happen, but just here's where we are. All right. I had to check. I had to make sure that we weren't muted here. That would have been a terrible start if after just getting into the DXY like that, we were on mute. But we're all good to go. Hey, thanks, Ken. I appreciate that. I appreciate the support like that. It's really helpful for the channel. It's really helpful for us getting known and seen. And I do appreciate the token of appreciation for what we're doing here. Where should we start today? I want to just start off with gold. I want to see what gold is doing, and gold has come back into this pocket over here. I don't know that this trend line over here means anything up here at this point. We have it since down here, and I'm going to keep it in here right now for a little while and to see what it does. You can see over here it did come into play, the top one as well, right? Price spiked. It closed over here at the high of the trend line, spiked above, never held above it. I don't know how much weight, and they're also very light. When I put a line in light, that means I give it less consideration. Am I looking to buy gold up here? Absolutely not. No way. Let's wait and see what happens and just get a little bit more of an edge. Look at that run though. Look at that run, it's beautiful. All right. Let's start there, Mima. Let's start with US dollar, Swiss franc. I saw last night the Swiss franc was very strong versus the euro. I have no idea what she's doing versus the dollar. I see right now that she's coming up on the daily and testing this resistance right over here. So what do we know? We just looked at the DXY. We know the dollar is hanging in there. It's pretty strong. It's getting close to that resistance. That's all we know. Looking at this chart here, we are caught up against this resistance, currently being rejected a little bit, but the dollar's coming off a little in the last half hour. We are about 25 minutes until the U.S. Uh, equity open, and the first 90 minutes there are really important to see what direction the dollar is going to pick for this session. Again, we have this. This is the event to look forward to tomorrow. Um, Expectations are pretty moderate. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen as far as if we get a big some good numbers in there. I don't know how much that will affect the U.S. dollar here. We're just gonna follow what's going on the charts. I'm gonna be following more what's going on the charts. Let's look at this on the 8 hour. So it's hard for me to get any type of feeling for what is going on here. I know that I'm in a strong downtrend, especially ever since we broke down out of here. Over here, you had a nice little bit of consolidation before you broke down hard. And since then, you have not had too much of an up move, just a slow drift down. Is this resistance going to hold? Is this the place to be selling? It could be, right? It's a trade. It's a good trade. You have everything in your favor. The strong downtrend, price pulled back up into resistance. Um, yeah, I mean, I see someone leaning against this. Would I like this resistance up here better? It's a lot stronger. But you're wrong right away if you take this trade. If I took this trade, I think that I probably would go with a tighter stop loss, and it's not something that something that I would choose to stand aside on. But I see the trade that people are looking at over here. Woo, okay. Uh, Let me start on the euro US dollar, and price is still, I still have this trade open, and it's right here hugging this support level. It peaked below during London. You can see it came below support and is now back at it. There's there's not much of a edge either way. This is not showing any signs to me that this is stalling out and then looking to reverse upwards. I'm still maintaining and holding the trade, and I'm just giving it room to go. We'll see what happens. This looks good. I would love to get another move and leg down over here, and that's probably where I will look to take profits. And being that I am managing this trade, of course, I'm just concerned whether or not we do turn to the upside, and at that point, I will take in profits. I can't imagine me taking profits, getting out of the trade before tomorrow's FOM non-farm payroll numbers, but you never know. Um, I got into a trade last night long the US dollar, Japanese yen, and we're coming up to a point over here. We have a bunch of overhead resistance over here. So I'm going to be watching that this morning and then decide what to do, whether or not it is to take profits or lock in my stop. I'm completely undecided, and I'm just right now just holding an open trade. I'm probably about, let me look, about 23 pips into profit. So I'm just waiting and watching. Euro Japanese yen, you could see that we've regained this resistance over here. Pretty cool. but you could see that we're trading right at this resistance right here, and this resistance, it held over here last time. We're back at it again. If we get back above this line, looks pretty healthy to the upside. There could be some more room. That could coincide with possibly the euro getting a reprieve against the dollar. I'm not sure. We are seeing continued Japanese yen strength, but it's kind of moderate today. It's not too strong. It's not really giving much of an edge. If anyone is focused in on anything, please let me know, only because I would like to take a look at it this morning. I have a feeling that I'm kind of between waves this today, right? And which makes a lot of sense if we are between waves, and by between waves, meaning there's not going to be any new setups in the market. Makes sense with tomorrow's non-farm payrolls and everything that has occurred thus far this week. Do you sell this off of this resistance up here? We've come up pretty high and far pretty quick. Um, maybe, right? Maybe. If I'm not sold on the idea, it's not something that I would take or consider taking, but I'm trying to see, and always uh, play the market, whether I take the trades or not in my head, which helps develop myself mentally and as a trader. And the reason I wouldn't take this, although there's a good probability that this holds up here and we get rejected, I look at the double support down here. So I need to make some changes. You have this trend line support and now this support over here, right? I would never take an entry that's coming into, by the time I entered, coming into two double supports. All right. So there we are. But my entry was at on the US dollar 109.24. I set the trade order about 11 o'clock Eastern time. And I set it with, I'm not sure what time it entered. I was sleeping. So my entry was probably on this candle right here. And that would be during Asia. And like I said, there are some times that I entered during Asia. So I want to tell you what's going through my head though, so everyone knows. All right. What was going through my head was this. When I set the orders, um, I I'm not sure if it was, I think it was this price bar right here, and you can see this wick down here. Okay, price was trading back down somewhere around here, somewhere around here. All right, I'm not exactly sure where. This was about at 11 o'clock Eastern time, 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, and right before I went to bed, I set these orders. I looked at both the Australian dollar Japanese yen, the pound Japanese yen, and the US dollar Japanese yen. And here price was off a little bit. And I like that. I like entering a trade. If this was, I was focused, I was not on the 8 hour here. I was on the 4 hour, and that was because of all the events that took place yesterday after Trump. So it was a little bit abnormal. And I saw that if this support was going to hold and then resume upwards, I wanted to be in it. So when I was looking at this was not an up price bar. This was currently a down price bar. So I knew that if this trade were to trigger, all right, then price was resuming upwards and was making new highs, and it was okay to get into it. This is not a what can I say? This is not a textbook trade for myself, right? But all as I basically did was move down to a lower time frame, and also yes, good astute that it took place during Asia. I had no idea whether it would trigger during Asia or into London or not. Um, Basically, when I set my orders, I normally set them around that time. But again, that's normally off the 8 hour, and normally what I'm looking at is an adverse price bar. So that would fill during London. So it looks like it filled. It looks like it filled. If I could just get a look at the timestamp. For my server, it says it's 7:45. Right now, it's at 16. So about 9 hours ago. Pound looks weak. Pound is coming back now versus the Japanese yen over here. Hold up, everybody. 1 second. Sorry about that. Okay, so pound versus the Japanese yen is okay. Yen is a little bit weak. Pound is down a lot versus the dollar. Up, just came back up a little bit. All right, pound is mixed. Everything's mixed. I think it's going to be a light day all around, and we'll keep following it. You're focused in on Mima on the Swiss franc pairs. Let's take the look. All right. So if you're looking here at the Australian dollar, Swiss franc, very good in recognizing the resistance up here. Okay. You could see that price came back up into that resistance, and why it's a good resistance. Look over here. You see this was a pretty strong support. And when a strong support is broken, it's then a good resistance. Much better than when you were looking at the US dollar, Swiss franc. You could see here, this is the stronger resistance. Not to say in a strong move that price will come all the way back up to here. That's not true. That's not necessarily true. I'm just pointing out the fact that right here on the Australian dollar, Swiss franc, you are looking at a stronger resistance over here as price touched up over here. Price has since peeled off and come back down. So the entry was right around here if you were taking that trade at 0.6672. All right. And then you're just basically into a trade right now that is just a couple pips into profit. All right. So that's that trade as far as what you'd be looking at for take profits. King, why I look at the 8 hour. There's a lot of supply down here. There's a lot of work to get through over here. Um, I, to be honest, I don't like this trade. It's not a trade that I would take. I see what you're looking at and where you're doing it. I don't really. I tend to stay away from the Swiss franc pairs most of the time. Um, why do I trade the 8 hour time frame? I trade the 8 hour time frame because it provides a much better filter. Uh, than the lower time frames, than the 4 hour or the 1 hour versus false signals. If you trade the 4 hour time frame, you notice that you get a lot of this right here, of these back and forths, right? And the 8 hour filters out a lot of that. Same thing over here. You had down, never made the up, and then another one down here. The 8 hour provides a very good filter versus just normal price market fluctuations. I like the fact that there are 3 sessions a day: Asia, London, and New York. which also make up for the 3 price bars. I do think that it provides better entries than you would find on a higher time frame, such as the daily. I think the 12 hour is a good time frame to trade as well, but I like the 8 hour. And I personally think whether it's investing or trading, the 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 longer you hold on to something, the more of a chance of you making money, right? And I know that's counterintuitive to how a lot of traders think. They feel that, by being involved in the market and the more trades they make, the more money they're going to make. But that's not true. It's actually the more trades you make and the shorter your time frame, the harder it is for you to be able to succeed. Let's take a look at the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. All right, so I have to draw in some supports here, or some resistances, I should say. We got a really strong one up here. This is just an extension of we had this blue box over here where price was really sideways. We're coming up into that, right? We're coming up into that strong resistance we have up here. I would like to see it a little higher, get into that resistance a little longer, but you could also see the bottom of these wicks over here. Here's one. This one went past it, taking out a lot of stops. And then here it held again. And that's where price is right now. All right. You're at the bottom of these wicks. So that's also a level to be watching, not as heavy as this one here. So if price were to come around and resume downwards, is there an entry over here? Yeah, possibly. Absolutely. 1039. Yep. Good place, right? There you go. Again, the very good place, the 1039. I put mine up a little higher with all support and resistance levels, and with all take profits and stop losses. It's not a science, it's an art, right? And again, we've talked about this just last week or on Monday. If you find yourself you're getting stopped out by a couple of pips, then you're being too exact where you place your stop loss. You're much better off taking a less of a position size and moving your stop a little further away. Even though you know where to put the stop loss, you're putting it in the exact spot, right? So this is just a guide right here. If you have yours down here at 1039, I like that. It's equally as good as I like mine. Not equally as good. I like mine, but good job. Good place to look for a short. You don't short it as price reaches there. Make sure you look for price to resume downwards to show that price is taking you back into the trade, right? That's the entry, and good spot. Adversely, if the bulls regain this level, if the bulls are able to take out this resistance, come back and test it as support to the upside, that looks like a decent trade also to the upside. Elias, you're asking if I use the wicks from yet. Do you have I need an example, a pair that you're looking at. And even better, Elias, if you could just go ahead and private message me the chart if you're looking on TradingView, or just be more descriptive on exactly what you mean. When I set support and resistance levels and trend lines, I'm if you're asking if I use wicks, I could give you an example here on I think the euro Japanese yen. No. So, or if you're asking if I use the body of the candle for the line, okay, that's nuanced. I'm looking for an example that uses both, and I know that we've seen one recently. Okay, here's a good example. You see these? This is a rising wedge. I'm focused in on this line right here, and I'm focused in on these two lines over here of this rising wedge. All right. This one here is using the bodies, the close of the bodies. All right. And then this one here, the bottom line, although it's using the close of that body, it's using these wicks that happened here and here. And then it became bodies. They're both relevant. All right. You can see over here, if this answers your question better, I use the bodies, not the top of the wicks. All right. More often than not, you're focused in on the open and close of the body of the candle. But look over here. This was whether you use the top here or the bottom here, I think it's the same thing. But I focused in on the body, and then look, then it was wicks. So that's more of a boom boom boom. That's more of an art. That's not a science where all the time you use the body or all the time you use the clothes. Definitely look not to focus in on the wicks, but more on the body. But understand that the wicks do come into play. That's how it works over and over again, right? Support becomes resistance. I feel like I'm getting ooh, I don't love this trade that I took. I feel like I'm getting more luckily. I took this more for fundamental reasons of just going after the momentum of what happened yesterday. And I also took this because the US dollar, I expected some follow through on the DXY, right? Up into here. We were only about here, and I expected that further momentum. I expected that yen weakness because of the de-escalation yesterday after President Trump spoke. This is not a trade that I would use to educate people on. I you know so that's that. All right, I think the New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen, could be running into some trouble up here as we get closer. Uh, I noticed this trend line over here. All right, and so this is, I guess, poorly drawn in. So we still have a little bit of room to that resistance over here, but I also noticed that we made a higher high on the daily and are now coming off a little bit. I don't love it at all, and it's something that I would stay away from. That's interesting, Rustin. I do want to take a look at right after this the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. That might be offering us some good opportunity. Nope. I was expecting that the Canadian dollar was off a little bit because of the US dollar, Canadian dollar. This is definitely something we all want to watch. We'll come back to this in 1 second. This is a pair now that is becoming interesting as we get towards this resistance level, and we'll look at that 1 second. So first here in the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen, I was hoping that maybe we were down in this pocket a little bit more before looking at it because of the U.S. dollar having its way right now with the Canadian dollar. But that's not the case. The Canadian dollar is still holding up strong versus the yen. So I'm not looking. If we get closer down to this trend line support and this support down here, that becomes more attractive for me. I'm not gonna look for the breakout, right? I don't ever do that. If we get, I should draw in this over here. I just want to draw in this little bit of resistance that we're playing with right now. And the reason being because she could just break out up here. And then if we do and come back down and test that, that could that could be a possible place to look for an entry in the coming week ahead. But let's go back to the US dollar, Canadian dollar, because this is looking good now. This is what we were waiting for. And we're coming back towards this resistance. Look right now, that's coinciding with this resistance right here. Now we have this resistance above us. I will not be surprised at all if we break this resistance and get caught up against this resistance here. All right. So what does that mean here on the US dollar, Canadian dollar? Well, when we come into this resistance, we have it's a light resistance. This is the better one, but we'll take a look at it. And if price, if this resistance does hold and price is rejected, definitely like the Canadian dollar versus the US dollar short here. as the DXY gets towards these levels and towards this resistance here. It's a good place to lean in, and the Canadian dollar is the pair to do it against. Now, we might get up here, and that's also an area we would look at to do it. They're both high probability setups. Not to say that they'll definitely work out, but that's definitely a trade that I'm highly interested in. So, King, that doesn't come through yet. We're gonna wait for it, and as soon as it comes through, I'll be looking for it. And I don't know what's going on or how long it takes. I'm gonna even just try and refresh this page real quick, and then I'm gonna take a look here at the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. There it is. All right. So first, we'll look at the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. We'll get right to that, King. And then what I'm going to do is not to interrupt our flow, is just pull up another tab I could refresh to look at those things. So we have a long entry here on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. This support was broken out yesterday. This happened very quickly. So let's look at a smaller time frame. I'm going to just look at the 4 hour. You could see the breakout. This was during Trump's press conference yesterday. It broke out to the upside, then came back down, and it tested that broken support, held as resistance, and then came back up to the upside over here. Price should be right just about at entry, a couple of pips above entry, and it continues to look like a good trade. So the yen weakness has stalled out a little bit since the break, but above support. This is a good sign. It's consolidating and getting ready perhaps for another move upwards. If you look at the other yen pair, the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen we just looked at, you also see that price is consolidating here above the level. I would say that's pretty bullish leaning. Pound, Japanese yen also consolidating above the broken resistance. That's holding as support. Euro is stuck at this resistance. Um, it's it's a good trade. It's an okay trade. I have to say. And um, we've come pretty far, pretty quick, and it makes sense to be consolidating right now. It might be a trade to step away from to get out right now, a couple pips up or at break even, because you don't. We're setting up. I can't say that. We're setting up. It could go either way as long as you're above the support. It's pretty solid. Um, I like the fact here as you're consolidating, entry CCI is coming back down here. This is going to give it perhaps a little bit more room for the catapult above. If you get above here at 75.30, the trade starts looking good. Okay. You have a little bit of work to do. And if you get above 75.30, then the trade is looking good. And we should take a look at this resistance above at 75.93. All right, here we're looking at the US dollar Swiss franc. That's a good guide here. I don't know. I like this trend line drawn in over here, King. Trend lines are super helpful. What else you're looking at? You've drawn in the support over here. That I don't know, but it looks like you're leaning off of that support. That looks good. So let me look at my chart. At 97.95. 97.95. I think you're missing that one. I have this resistance here. This is my heavy resistance. It comes off of, let me look at the daily with you to show you. I think that's a good one to focus in on, King. If you're focused in on this pair, and you could see it here, that this upper resistance line at 97, 95. You could see again here it held above as resistance, and then here as support. Again, that's not a science. Here again as resistance, and here as support, and then again it was holding. So I think this is a good line to be focused in off of. And if that were drawn in here, that would be coming in right around here. That looks like the top. So it's a tough one. I don't like it. I think this trend line here is really helpful. And I think if you get below that, coming off of any of these resistance, what time frame is that? 8 hour. Good job. I think you get below, off coming off that resistance, you get a break of this trend line over here. That's a good short entry. This seems counter trend to me. I like what you have going on here. And I like that you leaned into this little bit of supply here, but this is counter trend big time. And not only that, as the DXY is making its move, we've seen the dollar come back from this area all the way up to here. The dollar hasn't made too strong of gains versus the Swiss franc. Similarly, the Canadian dollar, right? So I would say the Swiss franc and the Canadian dollar are pretty strong versus the US dollar, right? Whereas, you know, similar moves, can't say that. The euro put in some more weakness. What about the Australian dollar? There you go. That's weak versus the dollar. There's where the weakness is. And we want to go strength versus weaknesses. This is becoming interesting too. This is a very good pair to be looking at right now. Where are we? I'm going to move this up to the top of my list. This is a really pair that I want to focus in on, because we're coming back down and it looks like we're going to get a test of this pocket. Again, this pocket is coinciding with this resistance over here, and this looks like a good setup. This is like the next set of waves coming in. Tomorrow might be the catalyst, right? Tomorrow's FOMC. I like waiting for these two trades, the US dollar, Canadian dollar, Australian dollar, US dollar. This has come off pretty far and pretty fast, so it's coming in hot and heavy. Obviously, I like the Canadian dollar short versus the US dollar more than I like a long Australian dollar, US dollar. But I like both those trades, and it's kind of playing the strongest and the weakest pair versus the dollar. So that kind of moderates risks a little bit. Anyway, out of what's coming up on the horizon, I definitely like these two trades. All right. First, we're gonna get to all these questions really quick. Mima, before we get to Bitcoin, Blair is noting that we have Bank of Canada governor speaking in a couple hours. I don't know that that's gonna. I don't know. I don't think that's gonna have any effect on the market. I skipped over that to the retail sales. Good to be aware. We'll see. Regardless, and I say regardless in the fact that we still have work to do before we get close to a resistance level that I'm interested in. What about this one right here? It's very light, right? I don't consider that. Now, if something's trending strong, it's going to continue not coming up too far. I'm more focused on the dollar here. I think that I don't think she's going to be rejected yet until maybe tomorrow. If she's rejected, it'll be you know non-farm payrolls. or something after that. I think that we got a little more push in us. What I'm hoping will happen, and when I say what I'm hoping will happen, meaning the only way that I will take a trade on it is if we do at least get towards this resistance. All right. If we resume downwards out of here before coming up into here, I'm I just missed it and I'm not taking it. All right. So when I'm picky and choosy about my setups, it means that they got to happen according to plan. And for that, that means me this coming up a little bit further. Um, there was a lot of good questions going on. As far as Bitcoin, I don't think it's a good idea to short Bitcoin. Um, so looking at the Bitcoin daily chart, this is I need to do this for a second myself. So what I'm noticing here is this line over here. So that's a support line, right? I got my support over here, broke, false break, came back down again, held as resistance, and that's a pretty good line. So I'm looking at it breaking up here and coming back down and testing. If this breaks, is that a good place to get short Bitcoin? I mean the maximum room I see as far as Bitcoin could go is down towards the 6,000 5,800 level. I don't believe it goes below than over here at this support at 65. So I would not feel comfortable shorting Bitcoin into that. There's not enough room. When you know, Bitcoin right now is trading with low volatility and narrow range. So when Bitcoin opens up and it starts really moving again, right? Then you could look to more trade Bitcoin. Right now, I'm looking for this chart right here.
It looks to be that we
When
are in this
Bitcoin's in this area
reaccumulation
over
phase for
here,
the next 6-7 months.
when it's in this area over here, when it gets into that area, you could trade Bitcoin, right, for some big moves. That's not the time right now. Right now, you're in this little narrow area. Volatility's down. Shouldn't be looking really to trade it. It's more of an investment. And I think right now, if this support holds, it's a good place to get long Bitcoin. So, two things. As far as the pound Japanese, when you said you got destroyed, right? Um, Taking a loss is fine, but what was your risk on that trade? You should not be risking more than 1% on a trade. If you're not yet making money, then you should be risking less, and that's perfectly great. Start risking a 0.5% on a trade, right? Um, so taking a loss is that's part of business. We do that all the time. That's fine, but don't get destroyed on any single trade, because if you get destroyed on a trade, it takes a lot of work to make up for it. And price hasn't gone anywhere today. All right, Leonard, let's get that's the most important thing to be working on right now. Uh, is there's there's no position size. That's the most important thing to focus in on and work on. That is going to pay dividends in your trading and improve your performance and get you going where you need to get going. All right. So I knew you were going long on the US dollar, Swiss franc. I think that's a counter trend trade. Um, I saw you were going long because I think what you're doing is here you saw the break above here and then the pullback into this green area. And the green area here is like a bit of a support supply zone. So I knew you were going long over there. I know you got your trend here. So if it gets below there, it's your stop and you know you're wrong. But it's a counter trend trade for sure. And not only that, this is the DXY right here. You don't have too much more room to go. Yeah, we might break that, but you're coming up into resistance. Andreas, so just I want to be really, really, really clear with everyone. Um, Listen, I'm just offering what insight I could offer, and I'm doing that with the best intentions, trying to help anyone and anyone that's interested. Uh, I don't ever mean to come off like I know better than you. I don't. I'm not trying to say that by any means, nor am I trying to say that someone else's opinion is wrong. I'm just offering my insight, and I'm definitely offering what I know works and how I can make money in the markets, right? And I know that you could do it too. So I just want to be real clear that and this has come from me. No one has said anything at all. I just want everyone to really understand that I don't want to prevent anyone from sharing their insight and their opinion, because that's the only way that we get to have that discussion and grow together. And when I offer my opinion, if it's opposed to yours, I'm not trying to say that I know better and that mine's right, but it's just an opportunity to kind of share more information and learn together. My only interest is in helping you profit from the markets. Appreciate that, Andreas. We're all here to learn from each other, to help each other, to better each other. Putting my mouse horizontally at 75. And you can see a couple of touches right here, and then again this touch over here, and there was a place you were looking for that pullback to lean off of. I like it then off of, if you were looking at that place, I don't buy when price is going against the direction I'm looking to go into. I don't take breakouts. I take the after the test of the broken support or resistance level when price resumes upwards. So if I was looking at 75, what I'm then looking for after that is, depending on what time frame you're looking at trading, is for price to touch 75 to come into that level of interest, but then on whatever time frame you're trading, for price to make a higher high. So if you were trading a 30-minute time frame, right, price came in, touch 75, I want to see price come up. I wouldn't trade a 30-minute here, or at least an hour. And price come back up above 75, 16, 17, uh, and look to get long. All right, where are we? We have not. We've gone off a little different of our normal approach today by just blowing through and going through all the pairs. It's good, and I'm glad for it, because again, I just feel like we're between waves today. Got some good waves coming in. U.S. dollar, Canadian dollar, Australian dollar. Australian dollar holds here. That's pretty bullish. Um, some waves coming in, not yet. Now's the point where I'm practicing patience. All right, where else can we find some hidden gems of what's going on? So it looks like after this Iran situation has been resolved, or seemingly resolved, for now it's resolved. Hopefully, there's no further escalations. it looks like China's next move was that now they are coming to Washington next week to sign the phase one trade deal. Why I'm mentioning that and why that's important, because uh, assuming that happens, that should be supportive of further yen weakness, right? Makes sense? That also should be supportive of further dollar strength, by the way. CAD's a strong beast right now. Yen is a weak one. You're playing off this resistance here, though, and it's a good area. It's counter trend. I don't consider counter trend high probability, but look at this. It's a good trade in the fact that here's why. You're trading off of this resistance over here, and there is resistance. You're now making lower lows. You know if you're dead wrong, right? You could have a tight stop on this one. You could have a tight stop, and you know you're wrong. Uh, is there the possibility and opportunity we come all the way back down and trade towards the lower end of this range? This is now consolidating in a range. Yes, right? So you got like a good, more or less 50, 60 pips in there for sure with a tight stop. So I see it, it's clear, and it's a good trade. Not the type of trade I take, right? I don't play, first of all, sideways price action, and I don't play, some. The yen is too weak, and the Canadian dollar is too strong for me to look for the counter trend. I actually, do the opposite. I look to play the strength versus the weakness. DJ, great trade, and you're crazy. Good trade. Look at this. We're coming back down. I assume this is your take profit level. I don't know. You're in the trade, not me. I'm interested to know where you're looking for take profit or what you're watching. Very interesting. We're coming back down. We said if we broke this trend line, we'd be coming back down here to test this support. It looks like a good support, right? Is there a chance you get through the support? I don't know. I don't I don't think so. Deep down here we got some further support. This area might reach though. This one I think holds down here at 57.60, and more importantly, anyway, what's your plan? What are you looking to do since you're the one short it and you're on the good trade and you took a good trade? 56.60. Further support down there. These are good lines to draw in. Good job. Good trading. Yeah, Andreas, good trading on that. There you go. I hope you get the break right here. Again, you clear up in this area. You clear just around, uh, 75, 17, and definitely above this area over here. You get above 75, 30. I don't know. Maybe you're looking to take profits there. You're trading on a short time frame, but you get above there, the trade looks really good. I'm hoping I get my breakdown over here on the euro US dollar, and the dollar strength looks like now that it's going to continue through the rest of the session. We're about 25 minutes since since the US equities open. About 25 minutes before they opened, when the dollar was coming off a little bit, we noticed, we did say that it would be sometime after the US equities open. That's why I focus on US equity open, even though it's not part of foreign exchange. It's because it plays into the whole puzzle that we would and could see a resumption. Let's see what happens. Obviously, this is the key that I'm looking at the 1 hour with you guys. Let's see what happens if we get back up into this pocket over here. Again, right now, kind of, although I'm riding a couple of waves, I feel like I'm in between waves. So that's a good place to be riding some good trades, one well into profit, and be looking for the next set of waves to come in at the same time. That's let's focus in on that. That's a really good attitude, DJ. That's the attitude right there. And right, this is the attitude that I also have right here. Like, I'm hoping we drop further. I don't know that's going to happen though, and I'm ready to get out if we don't. Uh, but notice that it's more of the stop loss that is my priority, putting the stop loss in and focusing on that, not so much to take profits. I think DJ is has a similar attitude right here. Saying, look, the plan is that I could ride this all the way down to here to 56.60. That's a perfect world. I don't know if that's going to happen. He's willing to trade accordingly to what the market gives him, and the only reason I'm focusing on that because that, again, Andreas, you were just talking about mindset. This is a really good mindset to have. I like it a lot. Um, do Leonard, as far as the pound, so let's take a look both at the pound Japanese yen and pound US dollar as we answer that. And so they're looking pretty bullish overall. Uh, Pound Japanese yen has this nice break. After that break, it's consolidated, came up and made this really uber bullish move up, but that was on the election news, and then since has came back down and is holding this support. As long as the pound holds above 140.89, that area over there, that support level, things look really bullish. And then you do have some further support down at 139.41. All right. You get below those levels, we're testing here. You get below this, then it looks pretty bearish. But right now, things look pretty structurally intact, and it does look pretty bullish. As far as do I, probably what happens is the EU gives them terms to leave on, and they leave with a deal, and that's going to be super supportive of the pound. Um, Pound US dollar has a similar thing taking place ever since it broke above this. This is heavy support, right? Trading above this support, you're very bullish. Consolidated after breaking out, went up to new highs. Again, this was on the election, came back down, found support here, just like the pound uh, Japanese yen, and we're very bullish. You get below this, okay, then the story has changed. You get below that support, and things look pretty bearish. But right now, she's holding in. Things look good. As far as what's going to happen, it's a hard one to trade because there's a lot of murky politics that are in play here, and on a long-term horizon, whether that is 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years. I can't think 10 years on the pound, but I think we're going to see some pretty strong pound appreciation, trading at a lot higher levels. But right now, we could see some obstacles that come out, and I don't know if it depreciates before it appreciates. So I can't think of it like that. I can only follow it on a swing trade level, and it's just the pound Japanese yen that's really coming into play now as far as offering any opportunity, and it looks good here. Showing signs of we're going to be coming up, and I think we're going to be testing possibly this trend line over here again, running into that resistance, and we'll see what that brings us. I don't know if that's going to happen, and I don't think it's offering the best opportunity right now. Um, I'm more inclined towards the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. Uh, Well, we'll see. Yeah, we're just working together, right? We're just trying to that's really good. So I was watching an interview yesterday with Stanley Druckenmiller. Stanley Druckenmiller is one of the greatest traders of all time. He's actually the one that took down the Bank of England. George Soros had him increase his position, but he's the one who saw the trade. He had for 30 years a 30% return. Uh, Excellent, phenomenal trader. And here's the thing, he was before the crash in 87, the stock market crash. The stock market fell 200 points in one day. 200 points may not sound like a lot to you right now, but back then I think that was like a 10 or a 15% move. And he was long that weekend, the stock market. He was overall long the stock market. George Soros sent him a paper, a research paper that Paul Tudor Jones, another legend, had written, and he read the paper. He realized he was completely wrong. Monday morning, pre-market, he got out of all his positions, and he was managing a portfolio of positions. You're talking an extremely a large amount of money. Point of the story is that as a trader you have to be flexible, and you have to be willing to in an instant be able, if shown otherwise, to be able to give up your personal beliefs if someone shows you something that's different, if it clicks and makes sense to you, and then you're able to realize that and change your position. That shows extreme maturity and is a good sign, a capability that a trader must have. So, who's looking at what, and what do we want to look at? So, Australian dollar, Canadian dollar. We're finally getting that. We're finally getting that little bit of a pullback we were looking for. You could see some resistance right up here. Let's draw that in. So this is interesting. Okay, if we get up into this resistance here, that's a place obviously to look then for a possible short. If if the bulls are able to regain this level, at that point, I would not be looking for another possible short on this pair unless this trend line was reached. All right, this trend line becomes resistance right now. This is pretty interesting right now, though, as we come into this resistance level over here. Um, this I'm trying to think if this is something I would look at overnight. I'm not sure. I'm going to come back to it and I'm going to look at it and I'm going to figure out whether or not this might be something that I would consider looking for a possible entry overnight until tomorrow. Trying to put together this puzzle over here, and so we've seen some Swiss franc strength. I don't know the reasons behind that. Anytime we talk about the Swiss franc, I'm kind of a little off my game. As far as I'm not really aware of what their central bank is up to and what they're trying to achieve and do. Um, so when I'm unclear, I need to always step back I like the fact here that we came back down and tested this support, which right off it, right? This was obviously during when did this occur? This is yesterday. I'm not sure why this happened. That's a big, 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 big candle over here, and then a big reversal. Came down into support and then came up into the resistance. You could see the resistance held on the upside. So this is why we have all these lines drawn in ahead of time. You can see they come into play. And right now we see King very undecided, came back off the resistance and coming all the way back down now. Right. So it's like price discovery going on. Price is not sure where to go, what to do. Um, I don't have an edge here. Why we're above this support though, I think we're pretty bullish, and not only bullish, you're bullish from the breakout, which is still holding, and while you're above that support, you're overall bullish. So I lean definitely to the long side, and as you're coming back down, especially towards these lows over here, there's where it gets interesting because you have something strong to lean into. If price starts reversing upwards, it looks like a place to possibly look at initiating a long. You get below the support, and then I think we come back down and we'll test into these resistance areas over here. All right. Uh, so and until they break, then overall this breakout's still intact. So if you just even step back further, this this looks like this reversal. We remember we were watching this reversal happen that occurred right there. It's still intact. All right. It's looking a little bit in jeopardy right now, but it's still intact. And it's when things are looking their sketchiest, it's the hardest to trade, and that's because that's where the opportunity is. So this is a key point to play off of. You've got to get above this resistance line right here, this trend line resistance, in order to be bullish, right? Once you get out of here to the upside, things look bullish. Right now, you're kind of, I wouldn't even say you're neutral. I would say you're defensive, but bullish. Please do send the chart. Let me know after you send it, and then I'll refresh it and look at it. So yes and no. Does if China signs the deal with the U.S., does that mean that the Australian dollar is going to continue to be bullish? That the yen will be weak? Here's the thing: is that sometimes you have, it's called, you've all heard it before, buy the rumor, sell the news. And we've seen the rumor has been that there's going to be a trade deal. That's been the rumor, and you've seen the move happen, right? So is there the what happens next after the trade deal sign? Well, the market's always forward looking. So I know what I'm looking towards there's going to be a global slowdown. When is that going to happen? Do I think that this trade deal is going to stop any type of global slowdown? No, I don't think so. What happens in a global slowdown? Well, DJ, that means lower oil prices, right? So a break of this trend line, short here now. Um, you know, could this be the trade? Could this over here be the high that we see? All right, this is kind of like just thought experiment right here, right now, and look at this. Gotta check that out. So, are we going to see $40 or even 24 before we even make a higher high than the high we saw during that spike? I mean, there's no way that I'm saying that's going to happen, but it's a possibility. It's a possibility, right? And why is it a possibility? Well, the U.S. President Trump is now trying to get Iran to the negotiating table to solve this in a peaceful way, right? If we enter a global slowdown, what does that mean for oil prices? It means much lower oil prices, right? Um, that's that's not the time horizon. I don't trade oil. I'm not looking to trade oil. But this is just a thought of a thought experiment. And why I'm doing that is because it's the same thing here with the China trade deal. Yeah, that should be supportive. There's so many pieces to the puzzle. We're in an election year. It's in the best interest of the president of the United States to keep the status quo going, which is why we're getting the facade of a deal between China and the US. China yesterday just purchased a bunch of soybeans from Brazil, an enormous amount of soybeans. Obviously, they're not looking to purchase them from the United States. So the trade deal, the phase one trade deal, is really a lot of show. The question is how smart the market is, and if traders are able to realize that, and if they start looking towards the global slowdown, which also I remind you is going to be a lot of yen strength, right? So I don't know. The answer to the question simply is I don't know if the China signing the trade deal with the US means that we see further Australian dollar uh, strength or not, and yen weakness. We could follow the charts. That's all we have. That's all we can do. And if we step back and we look at the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, we have this breakout. And until this breakout fails and why it holds, we can be comfortably bullish the Australian dollar versus the Japanese yen. Same thing with the Australian dollar, US dollar. We have the breakout. You're not a point. This could be a really good buying opportunity, right? I have my blue box down here just to really bring my attention to it. If we get down there, that I'm interested in taking a stab at it. But below there, then we have to become bearish again on the Australian dollar, right? And there's the possibility that it's not black and white, guys. There's the possibility that this is a bull flow. Everyone's weak the dollar or bearish the dollar. I told you I was not bearish the dollar over here, right? I was very clear in the weekly Forex analyst that I was not bearish the dollar, that I believe this was going to hold. We have to get below this support level here and this break of this trend channel here for me to become bearish the dollar. And until that happened, I would not be surprised for us to break out to the upside over here. And that could happen. If that happens, this is not going to hold over here. And we're going to come down lower and all of us will get bearish the Australian dollar. All right. So this is why always we take a big picture perspective, but this is why focused here on the 8 hour, right? This is where you can make a living on the 8 hour because you don't need to price things in that are too far out to price in. You can kind of price in, what's happening every few days. Let's look at a couple of charts. Anyone wants to send their charts, love looking at charts. Go ahead and send them through that private message in TradingView. So here we're looking at New Zealand dollar, Swiss franc. This is the daily time frame. And what are we looking at here? You have this dotted line over here. All right, that is the support of this bottoming action. And again, on my chart, let me pull it up at the same time so we could just use each other's charts to work off of and build off of. I don't have this trend line drawn in. Why do I feel like I should have this trend line drawn in? Is there one here? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe, maybe not. I don't even know. But this is strong support down here. All right. Selling off of this resistance over here, this nice little bit of supply you got up here. Excellent trade, right? Counter trend, but good trade. Counter trend trades are good, right? But look at that oil trade. Counter trend trades, Paul Tudor Jones said, is where you can make the most money. The most money is not made during. Look, here's the counter trend trade down. Somewhere down here is the counter trend trade, right? Here's where the most money's made. Over here, when I got involved, this is not where the most opportunity is to make the money. It's the safest place to make the money. All right. As someone who is highly risk oriented, I've become highly risk adverse. So it's a good trade over here, selling off of the rejection of the resistance. But down here is where I look for, right? And this is the support. Both good trades. Both good trades. Oh, I like this. Thanks for including this. This is the entry, stop loss above the trend line. So I notice a king of really good pattern here you have in using the trend line because you had it on the US dollar Swiss franc, right? And now you have it here on the New Zealand dollar, US dollar, the Swiss franc, sorry, New Zealand dollar Swiss franc. And I like the fact that you are able then to use that as a guide for setting your stop loss of when you're wrong. Good solid trades, but you're back down at support down here. There's where you have your first take profit. Good trading. I have to be aware, just as we get closer up into this resistance over here, um, what I'm going to do. I don't know. I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to take profit or move my stop loss to break even. Um, I'm not sure. I'll talk that through in a little bit. Definitely seeing some further dollar strength momentum picking up here a little bit. Love to get the breakdown here. Leonard, if oil drops, will the Canadian dollar drop also? So right now, the 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 thesis, the premise is that we're going to see in the beginning of 2020 that we're going to continue seeing a little bit of a reprieve, that we're going to again, that we're going to see higher oil prices, that we're going to see commodity currencies, Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, New Zealand dollar continue to appreciate, and we're going to see the yen continue to weaken. That would mean some further dollar weakness along the way. Is that what's going to happen? Well, if we get above this resistance over here on the dollar, right? Then we're gonna no longer. Then we're gonna see further dollar strength. It's gonna mean all of a sudden the Australian dollar has broken out down here to the downside. Uh, Crude is going to be definitely getting below these important areas over here, right? And then you're going to see also on let's pull up the US dollar, Canadian dollar. Maybe that means that we've broken back above here. Let me give you a step back perspective. That would mean that we're breaking this strong resistance over here, and then that might start a really weak Canadian dollar. Those things could happen. We have to be aware of the adverse possibilities. That's not my base case. My base case is that that continues to hold right here, but we're aware of what could happen otherwise. Again, this is why we focus in on the swing trade time frame, um, and we have our premise in place. And for example, what do I mean by that? Well, coming back to the U.S. dollar, Canadian dollar, my premise is that if we get to this resistance, I have a chance to look for a rejection and a short trade. Maybe I don't get that opportunity. Maybe I don't get an entry. Maybe I get an entry. Maybe I get stopped out. Maybe we come up into here. What does that mean on the DXY? That means we break this resistance and we're up to here. All right. If I get another look over up there, I'm shorting that as well. If price is rejected off of here, I'm shorting it. Does it mean it's going to hold? No, it's just my premise, right? It's just and I'm going with it. And if I'm proven wrong, and all of a sudden we break out to the upside, well, then we're gonna be bullish and long sided. All right. So it's about flowing back and forth. It's about having our ideas, sticking with them, trading them when the opportunity, and then being very flexible where if the market shows us different, we go with it. So you can't just say this is the conclusion. You can't say I expect the US China to sign the trade deal next week and I expect the yen to be weak and the Australian dollar to be strong, so I'm going to buy them. You have to wait for the technical setup to occur, and when you get the setup, take the trade and go with it from there. You could go with I expect the Australian dollar to be strong and the yen to be weak. We're above this support here, so you could take any trades that give a setup with an entry, and you have some room to the upside here, right? So you could focus in like that, but you got to wait for the charts to give you this setup, and you gotta have your stop loss in according to the charts wherever if you're buying below the support, and that way, in case you're wrong, you get out of the trade and you're okay. No way to +1 here, huh? So, and those of you who've been following, right? This was us before the vacation. Before the vacation, we were saying we got some resistance up here, right? We got some resistance from the trend line. We had this resistance up here. We were expecting and looking for a price to be rejected because until the resistance breaks, you expect it's gonna hold. You wait for price to take you back into the trade. That's what happened. Um, Same thing happened down here. Once we got down to this trend line, if you notice that everyone involved in the market, I mean everyone, a lot of retail at this point is all of a sudden so uber bearish the dollar, and we were saying no, wait, this is going to hold unless it doesn't hold, unless I'm proven wrong. I expect it's going to hold. We had the euro, everyone right over here, a lot of people were really bullish the euro. We were trading at resistance with the DXY also at support, right? We had our trades, and now we're back to the same exact scenario. And again, we have to look now. This will be tomorrow. Why? Tomorrow is an event that the market could turn on. You could see tomorrow, by the way, you could see a beat here. We could get 180. You could see the DXY pop up through this channel and then sell off on that. All right, that could happen. Just we have to be aware of what could happen, and the market likes to do that to a lot of people. All right. I'm also aware that if we get a break over here as we come into this resistance channel over here, this could be what holds us back. We get above this line over here, we become very bullish the US dollar. A lot of things will be happening if we get above here. On the Australian dollar, we will be below here. We'll be very bearish the Australian dollar. All right. But until those things happen, it's the opposite. We expect this is going to hold, right? We expect the euro will hold down here at these levels if we get there. We expect the Canadian dollar is going to hold. So we have a nice set of waves coming in. I'm really excited. I think we have a lot of opportunity coming in. I don't think the opportunity is today. Again, just holding some positions, and I'm just trying to really illustrate to you guys, to show you guys what I'm seeing, because I want you guys to be able to see it. And I don't think that's going to take. I don't think that's going to take a couple of weeks. I think it's going to take a while, but it's going to happen. And I think each day you're just layering on in more information that you know and you understand. It's really going to add up, compounding, right? It's really going to add up. But I do think that within a short amount of time, anyone that's not making money, I could get them making money. I think that the overall experience and knowledge comes from experience and knowledge, but being able to share like this in this type of forum with each other, I think that ups everyone's game. I think that helps you helps you get I don't know, without w- I don't want to sound uh, anything more than I should. But I think it's a really good place to be learning if you're interested in the markets and in trading. And I like when we get to these points over here because they're really important points. Uh, you know, if we take the longs down here, if we take if we get down here and take a long down here, if we take a short over here or over here and they don't work out, they're at big inflection points. Meaning, if you're wrong, well, the market's resetting the other way. You get a retest and then you go long the other way. They're really important points. I think we're on the same page, King. I was just thinking, what, like, that's an hour and a half of pretty much nonstop. Let me take a sip of tea right here. Let me let you guys do some talking. That's exactly right. And you know, I was listening to something this morning, Blair, and someone was giving tips that he finds highly effective and that has really helped him. One of his tips was exercising regularly, right? Whether that is again going to the gym or going for walks or whatever you can do. But what he was saying is in going to the gym and lifting weights, when you realize a week later that you could lift more weights, that's really inspiring and helps motivate you to keep doing that more and more. And then that translates into other areas of your life, meaning what you just said, Blair, as far as that compounds, right? It's the same thing here in compounding and gaining that knowledge and increasing it. Like it's the same thing as going to the gym. It's that little by little adds up to be a lot. What am I looking at here? Seeing a big gap in the chart. Maria, good morning. Glad to see you with us. Oh, so I wanted to do this. Let's do Stanley Druckenmiller. 30 years, 30% return. And this guy was trading massive amounts of money. Let's say if you started with $10,000, good chunk of money. Let's say it was $1,000. So 30% a year in Forex for a retail trader is something that is not only entirely possible, but achievable. 100%. And you could do that. That's kind of a bar that I think that any of you should be able to achieve on your own, right? So This is the part that you need to get into your head, though. It's the 30-year part, because everyone is very short-term minded. All right. Now, so let's say people only thinking 20 years. Look at the difference, though. Look at that 10 years of difference is what all the money was made. All right. So what do? What did I do there? So, but let's talk about 20 years. So what's you're only starting with $1,000 here, right? What's the difference if you start with 5,000? That's a significant difference. All right. But we're going here to the bare minimum here, $1,000. And what happens if you were adding $1,000 every year for those 20 years? It's a big difference. So I think it's very important as a trader, and this is the one thing that I wish I understood when I first started out trading, is that you need to be very long-term minded. You need to be able to allow compounding interest to do its thing and do its work. Lemboy, good morning. How's it going? If you have a chart on the US dollar, Canadian dollar that you want to share with us, go ahead and you could send it over. Go ahead through the private message here on TradingView. If you want to take a look at it together, we could do that right now. So we're about 90 minutes into Lemboy. We're about 90 minutes into the live stream, and I do suggest watching when you can the replay. And the reason I say that is because it's going to give a little bit better of analysis than we're going to look at right now together. But let's look at it together. All right. Here's what we're looking at. Before we look at the US dollar, Canadian dollar, we're looking at the dollar index. And we see the US dollar index, as expected, as we've expected this since the last weekly Forex forecast review. All week, we're coming now into the point of resistance. What does that mean? We always expect resistance is going to hold until it doesn't no more. On the US dollar, Canadian dollar, and notice you have this trend line resistance, and then you have this resistance right up here. On the US dollar, Canadian dollar, how does that translate? We're coming up into this resistance right here, just as we're coming into that trend line resistance on the DXY. This is a point that we're going to look to see if price does not hold, meaning that price does not go above that resistance and is then rejected. And I define that by making a lower low on the time frame you're trading. For me, that's the 8-hour. So if I see price not go above this and start making a lower low on the 8-hour time frame, then I'm interested in taking that entry short. And I am interested in the Canadian dollar to the short strike, because look at this. There's a lot of strength in the Canadian dollar versus the US dollar. This is a pullback that I'm interested in fading, right? Now, what happens if I never get an entry? Or what happens if I get an entry and then I'm stopped out? Or what happens if I never get an entry and we just take out this resistance? If we take out this resistance, the next thing I expect to happen is that we're going to work our way up towards here. Now, that doesn't mean it'll be a straight line. Probably what happens is we break, come back down, take a look at that broken resistance, see if it holds a support, and then trades back up into here. If we trade back up into here, again, this is an area of strong resistance. This is this horizontal resistance line, and then this trend line resistance over here. I'm very interested in shorting that level up here. I know I'm wrong if I'm wrong. If I'm right, I have down here to look at first to see if I'm taking profits or not, depending on what price does. That's too far in advance. We don't need to get into that now. And more importantly, though, if that broke, I now have a home run. So those are interesting levels for me to look at. That's why they're interested. Right now, the Canadian dollar probably is when a lot of people are getting interested in going long the US dollar, Canadian dollar. This is at the worst time to think about getting long the US dollar, Canadian dollar as you come into the resistance here. Wait to see what price does. If you are still looking to get long, you need to wait first and see if this resistance line is broken before you could think about getting long here. Martin, hey, glad to see you in here. I think it's the first time I've seen you. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do that right now. Listen, we have a great thing going on here. A great group of great group of people, and for sure you're going to learn a lot. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you're not already, hey, thanks for all those who got ahead already this morning and hit that like button. I really appreciate that because that shows your appreciation in a small way. And more importantly, what that does is that helps other people find out about the video and help them join our community. We have this free Telegram group that was just created a couple days ago. That is where I update later in the day any new trades setups that I'm looking at. Go ahead and sign up for that if you haven't already and you're just joining us. All right, so finally getting a little bit of a breakdown here, or looking back at the London lows here in the US dollar, Euro US dollar. This has been a fantastic trade. Trade of the week for me, and I'm really happy about it. And I hope that I get a look down at my target zone. Again, this is a good illustration to show the trade was entered over here as we came into the resistance, as we peeled back down, got short right over here. As we came down into here, into the first support level, I was looking to see how price reacted. I was open to taking profits, but not just yet taking profits. I wanted to see, and I'm hoping still that we get a breakdown and get into this stronger support down here, which is where I'll look to take which is where I will look to take profits. Whether or not, I'll wait to see what happens tomorrow morning. Good look, King, I think it was just now, and check in a second. I don't have the chat in front of me when I'm doing going over these charts and data with you, but we have also a big data coming out of Canada tomorrow as well, right? Big data, both the U.S. and Canada tomorrow. Really important to be aware of the calendar. So, what will I definitely take profits right away? If this happens today, right now, during this session, 100% yes, I will. We've come too far too fast. If this is a slow drift down to tomorrow and we're at not profit tomorrow, I will wait for the data and see how the market reacts and what happens. Nice. Nice. That makes me really happy. And the only reason that makes me happy is because I know that it's just a really good place to kind of like perch up, trade the market from, and make a lot of money in a much easier fashion. Martin, I've been trading for 20 years now. I started trading on the 5-minute and 3-minute time frame, trading future markets, um, day trading stocks for private firm. Also there on the 5-minute time frame. I always was very, 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 very active day trader. I got into Forex in 2003. Forex is I started on the 4-hour time frame. Uh, and I think it was probably around 2000, it was 2007 that I started trading the 8-hour time frame, and I've traded the 8-hour time frame since. I have and still do trade other time frames through automated systems and whatnot. But for discretionary trading, the 8-hour time frame is by far the best time frame. Again, just real quick, you get a look at all 3 sessions. There are 3 sessions a day. You divide the 24-hour day into 8-hour periods. It filters out a lot of false signals. If you are familiar with trading the 4-hour time frame, it has a lot of choppiness and false signals. Look at all of this. It's very difficult to trade. The 8-hour filters out a lot of that. The 1-hour time frame is very good for precision. It's harder to trade Forex on a lower time frame than that, unless it's during a very active period. For example, between 8 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, you could trade the 15-minute. During FOMC or any central bank, or not any, during FOMC during during any FOMC or during any ECB meetings, um, you could trade and I have traded on the 1 or 3 minute when the market's really moving, especially when there has been a rate decision. Um, but listen, if you want to make money and you're not making money, first of all, just spend a couple of weeks with us. Then really consider using the daily to get a look at the market, see what's going on, draw in your supports, your resistances, your trend lines, and trade off the 8-hour. Yeah, that's where we all are. So we got a long dollar bias when we were down here. You go ahead and you could just watch on Sunday was the weekly Forex forecast and analysis. Price was trading down here. This is when we became bullish, bias towards the dollar. This is when we got into this trade on Monday when the euro was trading at the resistance, and now we're trading up into here. Do I think we're going to see a reversal of the dollar before this? No, I don't think so. I think that throughout this session, this continues at least up until the London close. Um, so I'm getting ready to become a weak dollar bias, as that's what we've looked at all session today. Again, highly recommend going back and watching the replay later today when you get off here. But you could see whether it's the Australian dollar coming into a nice support zone, the US Canadian dollar coming into this resistance zone, um, euro coming back down. So we have a little bit more room on all the pairs before we look for a reversal on the dollar. Um, but we're watching the charts always to see what happens. I don't ever open positions on the daily, but what I use the daily for is taking a step back, getting a look at what's going on. Always taking a step back will give you better perspective, and then I draw in my support levels and my resistance levels using the daily time frame as well as trend lines. Right now, whether you're looking at the daily the 8 hour, the 4 hour, the 1 hour, or the 15 minute, it's those same support and resistance levels, right? It's just easier to draw them in on the daily. It's easier to draw them in, see them on the daily time frame. Draw them on the daily, then I move down when I see something coming close to a setup, come down into the 8 hour, and that's where I look for my entries. So you have to pick a time frame and stick to the time frame. If you get into a trade, you have to trade according to the time frame you're trading in, and you can't keep going back and forth. Just Martin, just I can tell you what I'm doing, and right, the entry was over here at 1.1182, and off of this rejection of this resistance, when I came down into this support level, I didn't take profit. I have my stop loss from the beginning, and I'm kind of always giving that. We first came into the support line right here. This is the 4 hour you're looking at right now, and price just came off a little bit, but this wasn't a rejection at all of the support level. If the price had been rejected and started trading upwards, I would have taken profit. That would have been a nice trade. But I first wanted to see what would happen and give the trade room to see if it would break through this level and coming down into this support over here. That appears to be what's happening right now. I hope that's what happens. But if you take a trade on the daily, you can't then look at the 4 hour. You're gonna if you keep switching time frames, you're gonna get the longer you stare at the screen, the more opportunity for you to get jocked out of your position, right? Or the more positions you're going to take that you shouldn't be taking. This is why it's such an advantage to trade off of a higher time frame, and that way you're watching less ticks. If I'm watching here the 15 minute, or if I'm watching the 1 hour, right? Are we going long? No, 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 we're short. No, 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 we're long. No, no, we're short, right? And that's a disaster. Active trading like that leads to you losing money through paying the spread, through taking losses. It's not a good idea, and it's not profitable. There you go. That's a good question. Don't let there be conflict. that's why, right, that's a good question. And the answer to that is take away the conflict by trading the one time frame you're trading. Right? If I'm looking at if I'm trading the 8 hour and then I go look at the 4 hour, right? There's conflict. And then if I go look at the daily, there's not there's not conflict here, but the thing is that, you know, you don't get precision entries off the daily. That's why the daily is so hard to trade. And that's why using the 8 hour is definitely more advantageous. But in order to avoid conflicts of different time frames, you have to have your entries come off of one time frame and stick to that time frame. You do your overall top-down analysis by looking at multiple time frames, whether that's the daily, the weekly, and then you come down to where you're making your entries, and then that's where you follow the market on, and then you take away that conflict. That's the thing about trading, is that you have almost unlimited factors and variables to make decisions with. You could put up 10 different indicators on your chart, but then things just get messy and you have conflicts. You need to keep things simple in trading. Trading is very complex. So the way to beat that is to oversimplify things and to make things simple, and to take away the conflicts of different time frames, is that you don't consider multiple time frames. You have to consider the time frame that you're trading. Here we are coming into the resistance. Also consider the time of day right now. We are always. I'm doing that right here on the US dollar, Japanese yen. And I'm actually took those off. I'm just holding my euro US dollar position. I am taking my profits here on the euro, US dollar, Japanese yen. And again, like I said earlier in the stream, this was a little bit, I don't know why I'm not seeing the data there. This is a little bit outside of my normal wheelhouse, as you guys know. And because of that, I'm taking the profits, and maybe a little bit premature. That's fine. I'm fine with if it's 10 pips a little premature. Just nice little trade to get out of the way for the week. What's going on? Thanks for stopping by. Glad you're here with us. I'm going to take everyone a short 5-minute break here. We've been going pretty hard at it this morning now for almost 2 hours. Hanero, what's going on? It's not possible to do a the 8-hour charts through the FX Trade web platform on Oanda. You would have to either be using TradingView and paying the fee in order to be able to use customized charts, or trading off of MetaTrader 4 using the free the video that we have in order to go ahead and set up the 8-hour charts on MetaTrader and then trade off of Oanda's web platform. The other thing that you could do, I don't recommend it. It's not so easy, but just look at the 4-hour and then visualize, grouped bars. So 8-hour bars if you're using the Wanda web platform. But I think the TradingView 8-hour charts is a good investment. I think it's really helpful and a good tool. Here we have the New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen. Yeah, this is actually a good trade. And let's do both, King, and look at your chart right here. And I also want to pull up a chart. And so the one thing that I do notice though about the yen pairs is that they've come off a lot, right? I had decided, I knew that yen weakness was in play, but the reason I went with the US dollar Japanese yen over the Australian dollar Japanese yen or the pound Japanese yen was that we're also dealing with dollar strength. And you could see that we've had this big up move, right? The big up move. We're just coming back down now, being with the entry CCI oversold. And now it's a place to begin looking for that entry if price is able to go ahead and push up and make that push up. You might get that. You might, as we come in now, it might not, I don't know when the timing will be. I don't know if it's here as we get around the London close, or I don't know if it's tomorrow, after these numbers get out of the way, but we could see a shift and a turn in the market. And that's when we could see, if we start seeing dollar weakness come into the market, then we may get a little bit of push in these pairs. Might see them resume up. What I'm getting at is the entry should be when you start resuming upwards, when price showed you as it's coming off of, right, this area over here. You have this area of support as price bounces off it and then makes a higher high. That's the place to get long here. It's the safer place because you don't know. Price might come back down and test. This should be up a little bit. Price might come back down and test this support down here before it resumes upwards. So you never want to be preemptive. And by preemptive, I mean, just because you're coming into a support or a resistance, you don't want to buy or sell. You want to wait until it's rejected and then price takes you into the trade. It's a higher probability trade because price is showing you that it's resuming in that direction. The other thing to look at and consider is when taking this trade is it's pretty safe to say if you get below this support here, you're very wrong on the trade, right? It's very safe to say you have a very high target up here, and you could lower your position size and look to place your stop loss below here. What does that do? Does that limit your profit? While you're making less profit, you're also going to be taking more wins out of the market, all right? Which is going to add up to be net in your favor. Just a couple of different ways to look at it, and I want you, King, to be able to see them. That's a good question. I mean, that gets tricky. I'm not sure right now, Hanero. If you draw trend lines in on the daily and then look at the 4-hour, for example, I believe on MetaTrader 4, those same trend lines stick in. But you can't do that on the 8-hour. So you can. The 8-hour is fine. The daily is easier. You could always compare it to the daily charts that we're using. and when we're drawing in there. But let's look here at where we have a lot of trend lines and support lines drawn in here. You could also see these same lines on the 8-hour and draw them in on the 8-hour. So as a trader, Hanero, you have to adapt to whatever the circumstances is. This is key. This is really important. I've done that my whole career. And if that means that you're going to be using the 8 hours on MetaTrader 4, and it's easier for you to draw in your trend lines and support and resistance on the 8-hour, just do that. It is easier doing that on the daily because you take a little bit of the chop out, but it's the same lines on the 8-hour as you see on the daily. Benedict, good morning to everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Definitely got a world community going on over here. Yeah, we live stream every day, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. We are live every day, Monday through Friday. You could, do I still have that in the description? Yep. So we're live every day at 9 a.m. Again, thanks to anyone who's gone ahead and liked this video. Do appreciate that very much for you showing your appreciation for what we're doing here, the information that we're offering. Please join us. Join us if you haven't already. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You'll get an alert when we go live, and then you'll be able to join us. And we seem to be attracting a really like-minded group of people who are definitely offer a lot of insight, and most importantly, are definitely positive and supportive. So now, I mean, and it's true, we are now 2 hours into the live stream. I would definitely say the first hour is the really heavy, dense analysis where we're running through all the different pairs and we're looking at all the different pairs, seeing what the market's doing, getting that flow for the market, and it's really that daily flow. I cannot stress to you enough how much doing the weekly Forex forecast, taking 20 minutes over the weekend and getting that overview of the market, and then each day building off of that as the market flows and develops, and staying in tune with the market as we do, how much it improves your trading. This is step number one, the most critical thing to be doing as a trader, by keeping the flow of the market, and that happens during the first hour of the session. It's a really important piece of the session. And then right now, as we're a couple of hours in, if anyone has anything that they would like to take a look at, any pair, if anyone sees something going on, take a look at it. If you want to send your chart, or if there's anything related to trading that opens up and could be discussed, that's the time to do it. That happened yesterday when we really took a look at why the US dollar is no longer a safe haven currency during geopolitical news events. I went ahead and just highlighted the best part of that conversation, uploaded it to the channel. King. So good question. Listen, I have some of my closest friends in the world invested into this, and you know, my thoughts. Man, all right, people that listen. I, you know me by now. I'm just pretty honest and forthright, and um, you know, I had friends who bought it down here. They bought it at like I believe at like 10 or 15 cents. Recommended it to me. They saw it go blow past $3. They're still holding it, and they believe in Ripple long term. So they believe in Ripple because it offers the opportunity for settlement, right? And that different banks can use Ripple as a faster and more clear settlement, as opposed to the way Swift takes, 3 to 5 days right now to settle transactions internationally between banks. Companies such as Western Union could use this, but a couple of things that are really important. First thing is that banks are that now have gone ahead and created their own settlement feature, which they are using. Number two, the most important is that the company Ripple has been using XRP as a vehicle of raising money, and the most of the currency, or most of the XRP, is owned by the company itself, and they sell billions of it regularly at regular intervals to retail to raise money. So it's very diluted, and it continues to grow, to become more and more diluted because the company controls so much of it. You could see these spikes. They could take out a lot of shorts really hard and really quick. I would never recommend shorting this because it's very dangerous. You could see big spikes. I think that listen, I won't be surprised if we see this trading in a year or two at 5 cents or lower. It's also important to realize not one of these is competing against Bitcoin. Bitcoin is money, and Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency that is the killer app is money, right? And they're not competitors. It's not Bitcoin versus Ripple because they're not competing for the same thing. It's not Bitcoin versus Ethereum because they're not competitors. I'm with you on that 100%. I wish I could pronounce your name. Is there any way that you could phonically spell out your name so that I'm able to be able to pronounce it? I appreciate that. Again, I couldn't sound out words growing up. I had to learn English by memorization, so it makes sounding out words I'm not familiar with that much more difficult for me even today. Panero, I don't know if it's true or not. The people that I associate with, the people um, that I learn from when it comes to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, they consider Ethereum a scam, a straight scam. And the reason they do so is because that when it was sold to the public, it was done so in a way that they knew was false. They knew that they could not scale it. They knew it was impossible to scale. They actually, as recently as 1 month, Vitalik is on video saying that they knew when they launched it that it was unscalable. And you know, is there a possibility that they ever get it all to work out? Maybe, but doubtfully. Anything that I don't know. I would just be really cautious. Maddie, this is the best update yet. It's entirely true. I definitely and you know, I would have loved to have been able to live out that vow of poverty. Um, but I love my blue bottle. I think it's much cheaper buying beans and roasting and making your coffee at home. Tastes much better and is much cheaper than buying Starbucks. That was our best share yet. Um, Maddie, what are your thoughts on Ripple on XRP going forward? I appreciate that. I'll go with tipping point. I like that. Also, pro tip right here: coffee that's made fresh tastes a lot better. The fresher the beans that have been roasted, the better the coffee tastes. Do not grind your coffee with a metal grinder. You're going to burn your coffee. That is just unacceptable. Make sure you have a burr grinder, Burr. Let's take a look at the New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen. I'm waiting and watching. This is a slow drip. We're trading at the lows of the day right now. Right now on the euro US dollar. I'm hoping that we just get, you know, this last burst down here because you know what? I like getting into trades, but I love getting out of them in good profit. Um, let's take a look at the New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen, and see whether or not it's violated. Yeah, it violated the trend line big time over here. And this is, going back, we'll come right back to this in 1 second. But if you look at a great example here on crude here, you could see we had this trend line drawn in, and when the violation happens, that's when you got the best opportunity over and over again, right? And on New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen, this is a steep angle, and it was hard to maintain. And it broke. That broke when it broke. That's your first sign. Look, if you were into this trade anywhere down here on the first breakout, this was your sign to take profit or take a nice chunk off, right? But is the uptrend over? It's too soon to tell whether or not it is or isn't. And I would say as long as you're above the support over here, it's still bullish, pretty bullishly intact, right? And what I'm envisioning is it could quite possibly happen is that we get another look up at this. We haven't tested this broken support, this trend line here, which was providing support since it's been broken. We haven't come up and tested it. I would not be surprised if we come up and test it. If you take a look at the pound Canadian dollar, you get a good example of that. Here was the initial breakdown of the trend line. And you can see multiple times it came up and it tested, and that is held as resistance. Here it burst through. This was on the election, but that spiked down the next day. That's not considered a break of the resistance. And then you could see the resistance held. I wonder what that looks like on a daily. There's a better look. You could see that this broken support, the trend line which was providing support. Once it broke, it then provided resistance. And I think you could see something similar on the New Zealand dollar Japanese yen, even though you violated and broken this trend line. I'm interested to see why we're above this support here if we take any looks at it. And I expect this trend line to continue to provide resistance on the way up now. That's why it's still there. Yeah, and to build off that too, though, Maddie, I've been always, about my, believe in buying, owning, and holding physical gold. And I believe the purpose of gold is sound money, right? And you can see right now, as the United States is $23 trillion into debt, and you're seeing we're paying $1 trillion a year now in interest, and you could see gold, you know, providing a hedge against that debt, and versus the U.S. dollar and the central bank system. I firmly believe that's the real world problem that Bitcoin is also solving. Bitcoin is also sound money. In 5 months, the inflation rate on Bitcoin becomes less than the US dollar, less than the 2%, and also just barely above gold. 4 years from now, Bitcoin will have less inflation rate than gold. And so I believe that just like gold, which provides a real world solution, Bitcoin is also doing that. And better than gold, Bitcoin could be transferred over the internet. So I don't take I don't trade the Turkish lira, and that's because the spread is so big and the carry is so big, right? Listen, anyone who got into this breakdown over here and is now holding this position and collecting this enormous swap, bravo, that's awesome. And it's just not something I would even look at or consider. What I do is I take a few trades a week. I am very picky about my setups. I trade what is clear and I look for things that are a very high probability. What that means is I'm looking for things that are trading near strong resistance or support. And once they're rejected off of that resistance or support, and that are doing it with strength and weakness. So by taking a few trades a week, by being really picky about them and taking the good ones, I find that I have much more success than being an active trader. And Euro Turkish lira is right out of short right now. That's a awesome trade, but I don't trade the lira simply because the spread is so big and the swamp is so big, and I just don't even I don't even consider it. Obviously, we're at a quiet time of day. Again, anyone who missed the first hour of the session, I always and definitely highly recommend it. It's definitely worth your time. This is a good time for us to be able to discuss or look at anything that's of interest to anyone. After also going nonstop for an hour and a half, 2 hours, I also this is more a down tempo part of the session. what I am looking at developing, I'm looking here at the US Canadian dollar as we rejected off of this resistance. Um, so obviously tomorrow is a little tricky. As King pointed out, you have some pretty important data coming out, both at the same time as the non-farm employment, non-farm payrolls, and it's a big catalyst in the market. Right now is a time to be managing and looking to manage open positions, not initiate new positions. Um, Maybe after tomorrow, after this data gets out of the way, even though it's a Friday, might be a good opportunity if the setups is clear for us to get into some trades. Would I short this overnight? You know what? I can't say that I won't and will. If we're rejected here and then we're in London, we start making lower lows here. There's the possibility that I take this trade, and simply because I know where my stop is. Obviously, a very good week just on two trades alone, just on the Euro US dollar and the US dollar Japanese yen. And the possibility exists, I go for it. But what I'm seeing importantly happen in the market right now is we're coming into this resistance here, this trend line, right? We're coming into this resistance. I have a feeling that this might not hold and that we take a look at this resistance up here. That's that's definitely in play. But right now we're at a resistance level. You see that happening here on the US dollar Canadian dollar. We see the Australian dollar, US dollar coming down into this pocket. We're coming to a place in the market where, like, again, I like to give the analogy of a surfer waiting for waves. And the next set of waves, you could see them about to come in, right? You see them coming in right now. If we wind up closing up higher today and this support over here holds, you could see this, it's light support. That's why I only have a little line over here and it's light colored, but there's light support here and there's a possibility that holds and we reverse off it. It's a trade I wouldn't take. It's a possibility. If we get the opportunity to trade into this strong support here of this broken trend line that goes back a year, right? And we come into here. I like taking a look at this trade. Um, if we're able to push higher towards this resistance, I like this a lot. This resistance over here, if this is the turning point for the dollar, as we get towards the top of this trend over here, then I want to be short the Canadian dollar versus the US dollar. What else is happening? Those are the two things that I'm mainly focused on. The Australian dollar, Canadian dollar is also into some nice strong resistance right now. I am focused over here as well. This might be actually something I take overnight because it's not affecting at least the Canadian dollar has some high impact news events tomorrow. At least this one takes out the US dollar. That's really I'm not looking at the yen pairs right now. I'm waiting for the yen pairs to come back after these breakouts to kind of reset themselves. I think early next week the yen might be in play for me. Uh just not over the next 24 hours. I could say that. Just not over the next 24 hours. I'm not focused there. And I see that next set of waves coming in. Good points, Matty H. I'm pro crypto as well across the board. I would like to see, I'm interested in seeing many projects go on to great success. I don't, you know, as someone who's very pro Bitcoin, I don't think Bitcoin like I wouldn't I don't think anyone that owns Bitcoin is looking to buy coffee with Bitcoin. And yeah, of course it's possible right now, but that's not really what you're looking to spend your fiat and stuff that you expect to lose in value. And just like I'm not looking to spend my gold, right? I'm looking to hold on to that. So I'm not looking uh any type of like that's not what Bitcoin is for me. Bitcoin is many things to many people. Do I think that 10 years from now if Bitcoin has an 8 or $20 trillion market cap, and that it's kind of matured as an asset, at that point, Bitcoin will that point have the use of some type of peer-to-peer cash system through second layers. Yes. Do I think Lightning or something variant of it will be mature by that time? Yes. It's kind of like, for me, it's kind of like we're in the internet 1995. This is pre AOL, which AOL was dial-up connection, right? Ding, 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 right? And there was no way that YouTube or Netflix or Uber or anything like that could exist. We're not there yet. And by the time we get there, at that point, you'd be using Bitcoin to buy coffee. Right now, there's no way you'd want to do that, because you expect the purchasing power of Bitcoin to continue increasing. All right. So that's just a different look. That's my outlook. That's my view of it. And no, my only opinion about non-farm payrolls tomorrow is that there possibility exists that we get a strong number. For example, if we get a 180 print, which would seemingly be positive for the dollar, right? That don't be surprised if you see a fake out. And even though it's a strong number, we actually reverse. I'm more interested in the resistance that we're looking at over here, also over here, and I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm not worried about it in the sense that it's not really affecting my analysis or any of my decisions. We got strong support and resistance we're looking at and again, I'm focused on the Australian dollar, US dollar, Canadian dollar, and looking where I could take my profits here on the euro US dollar. But I got out of this trade. But I'm not looking to the only thing that I could perceive happening is this is a strong number, and actually the market actually gets people caught off on the wrong side, and that's because I'm focused technically that we're at resistance levels, right? And the possibility we could get a really strong number and break this trend line, and then I think that this caps us over here, this resistance here, and then we'll just reevaluate. But I'm not concerned about whatever the print is tomorrow. No, so going back to the New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen, and is it safely bullish? Nothing's ever safe. That's just important to kind of reinforce into us. I think as long as we're above this support, we're pretty bullish. I think that we're seeing the yen come off after, don't forget this was during the attack, the Iran attacking U.S. military bases in Iraq, and you saw that yen buying that yen strength, and since then we've come off quite a bit. So this little bit of breather is quite normal behavior. You need to look for a resumption by entering. If you're looking to go long here, as you're sitting down near this support over here, and you have some support right there. Look at the line horizontal of my mouse. In order to enter long, and what I have learned through experience is that the best entry is when price then makes a higher high than the previous price bar. You don't want to buy just because you've touched down to the support. Like if you did that here, you went down much lower. Um, it's the high probability trade is taking the trade back in the direction you're looking to trade once price makes a higher high than the previous price bar on the time frame you're trading. Yeah, actually, and that's a good question. You know what? We don't normally get on to 9 o'clock a.m. 100%. Only those here will know it. but we will get on earlier. I'll get on tomorrow. The latest 8:25 a.m. I'll try to get on by 8:20. I will get on by 8:20 tomorrow. About 10 minutes before the non-farm payrolls. The latest will be 5 minutes before 8:25, but we'll be on tomorrow at 8:25 a.m. Eastern time for non-farm payrolls. I think Satoshi was trying. What throws people off is that the title of the white paper is peer-to-peer digital cash. Um, I think Satoshi was trying to create an alternative to the current monetary system, right? Clearly, in the Genesis block, he has the paper of the bankers' bailout, and what they were trying to do was create an alternative to the monetary system. That's what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is not an alternative to gold. Bitcoin's first competitor is gold, right? So gold has right now about an $8 trillion market cap, right? I believe there will come a time when Bitcoin has reached that market cap, and then will vastly overtake it, because Bitcoin serves much more purpose than gold does, right? And Bitcoin's competitor after gold becomes the US dollar. That's what I think. I think Bitcoin's purpose is more along the lines of a monetary system. And of course, the end goal of that will be a peer-to-peer cash system. But in order to get there, there's a lot of work to do. And Bitcoin is not going to become that until it first takes out gold and then takes out the US dollar. And that's exactly what, it seems to be the trajectory towards where it's headed, and has every possibility of doing. And will there be a time when Bitcoin can be used as a peer-to-peer cash system? Absolutely, 100%. I believe that the possibility and technology is already there to be able to do that. And people are using Lightning. Exchanges are actually now using Lightning as of last month. And I think in 2020, you're going to see a lot more exchanges start using Lightning. And Lightning is there. I think most importantly, you have the Square Cash App, right? Which uses Bitcoin and only Bitcoin. Obviously, the CEO of Square, the CEO of Twitter, he believes that the internet is going to have its own currency. He believes it's going to be Bitcoin. Square only supports and only will support Bitcoin. He's actually the first public company to be paying developers to develop on Bitcoin. And do I think that it's unreasonable to say within a reasonable amount of time you could use your Square Cash App to go buy a cup of coffee anywhere using Bitcoin? 100%. That's an easy problem to solve, but that's not where Bitcoin is yet in its growth of adoption. And the fact that Bitcoin is secure, and that the transactions take as long as they take right now, is to the benefit of Bitcoin, rather than forsaking security for bigger and faster blocks at this point. We haven't looked at the euro New Zealand dollar in quite a while, and this looks like we're trading at some resistance right now. If you go ahead, and we're going to just draw in this line right here. There you go. I'm using the body over here of these candles. And then you could see this is the resistance over here. So as long as you are coming into this resistance right now, you're looking for this resistance to hold. You're looking to see if you're rejected off this resistance. And if you are, and price starts making lower lows, it's a good opportunity to get short here. It's a pretty nice little bit of resistance overhead. It looks like a good place to short. It held again over here. If this does not hold and you get back above it, again, this is an important, and we're seeing this waves coming together across the whole market, setups come in together. Again, if this breaks to the upside and this resistance doesn't hold, never play the breakout. Always wait for the retest of the broken resistance to see if it holds a support. If it holds a support and then resume upwards, it also looks like a good place to get long. So this is at a good inflection point, the euro, New Zealand dollar. Good share. We haven't looked at that in a while. And now it's at a good point to be watching. So it's also hard to have a one-sided discussion, as unfortunately is the limitation when I have the possibility to be speaking and other people are typing. It's not really so fair, but regardless of your feelings on Bitcoin or not, I think it's really appropriate to look at where we are in the cycle, and we're about right here right now, right? 2020, we're about right here. We have 5 months until the halving, and just like we always trade off of support and resistance until they don't hold anymore, until this model doesn't hold anymore, I think it's a good idea to just pay attention to what's going on anyway and to take advantage of it. And this looks like a really solid point to be accumulating Bitcoin right now over these next 5 months, because I do believe that over the next 8 to 12 months, right, a few months after the halving, is when you're going to start seeing the next real bull phase mania take place of Bitcoin. The way that it, from what my research shows, is that if there's any type of alt season, right, that they occur about 6 months to 9 months after the halving of Bitcoin. Why? Because when Bitcoin starts making new highs again, when Bitcoin hits $20,000, everyone, it's going to be all over the media. Everyone's going to be talking about it, and everyone's going to think that they missed it and that it's too expensive for them. So what are they going to do? They're going to be looking for cheaper cryptocurrencies to speculate on. And that, I believe personally, is what starts the alt season. You have all these new investors coming into the sector because of the price of Bitcoin. They think Bitcoin's too expensive, and therefore they get involved in other cryptocurrencies, which sparks the alt season, when actually other cryptocurrencies appreciate at a higher rate than Bitcoin itself. So what I'm getting at is, I personally think if you like cryptocurrencies, this is a good point to be looking to buy in and to accumulate Bitcoin. And then if you really believe in any other projects, I think that as you see Bitcoin hitting new highs, getting above 20,000, that's the point you start scaling into those other ones. But that I don't see any other cryptocurrency outperforming Bitcoin over the next, call it 8 to 12 months. Yeah, I appreciate that. And again, I'm more thankful for you just pointing us in the direction of that pair. But we're live every day at 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And look, if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that right now. Join us. And if you have the time today, watch the first hour of this replay. Go ahead and watch the first hour when we really get heavily into our analysis. And we just started this 2 days ago, this free Telegram group, because pretty soon we'll stop this session. They last about 3 hours. And if there's any further updates in the afternoon, that's when I will post them on TradingView and send them through the Telegram. Tipping point. I'm gonna find you. I'll have it by tomorrow. I'm gonna find you a nice thread on Twitter discussing that. It's by Plan B, and he gets into that and discusses both ends of that discussion. I think you'd be interested in that. Um, along those lines too. Don't forget, going back to gold. Gold really exploded once the gold ETF was introduced. And although we know, and the reason I point out to gold is because we know the price of gold is suppressed due to derivatives trading. Um, it wasn't, this is right around, I don't know the exact year, but it was right around here when the gold ETF was introduced. So what's going to happen when the Bitcoin ETF is introduced, right? You're going to see a ton of, 401k, retirement money, pension money flooding into Bitcoin. Also, as far as the derivatives, the one thing that you can't do with gold that you could do with Bitcoin is that January 3rd, every January 3rd is proof of keys, where everyone in the community, they go ahead and if they have money on exchanges, Bitcoin on exchanges, they go ahead and they take it off those exchanges, which makes those exchanges prove that they have the Bitcoin. This has caused, the year before, a couple of different exchanges to go under, and people that are using derivatives and at Wall Street starts naked short selling Bitcoin, they're going to get roasted doing it. So it's a different animal than gold. And I don't think the price could be suppressed the same way that it was suppressed with gold. Good point. And by the way, I mean, I don't expect anything on Bitcoin right now except for us to be in this range, right? I expect, and I've said this, I don't know how long ago, for over a year, I said the price of Bitcoin at the halving will be 11,400. That's where I expect the price will be. And what happens in between right now, we're in the yellow box, right? So as long as we stay within the yellow box, it's a little bit of irrelevant. I'm just more of long-term minded on Bitcoin at the moment. When we get into here and we're seeing big moves, we could start trading Bitcoin, right? Then we could start trading Bitcoin. Right now, the volatility is not there. This is a narrow reaccumulation zone on Bitcoin. You break 5,800. My thesis is wrong. I need to really reevaluate and find out. My thesis is wrong. I'm wrong on Bitcoin. But unless that happens, right, long term, I'm bullish on Bitcoin at this moment. Yeah, there's an article I read on Zero Hedge last night. Um, I didn't look at it for more than 30 seconds, but what they did was look at the prior two bull runs on gold, and they also put a price of, I think they put the year somewhere around 2026, and they put up a target of 14,000 on gold, and I don't, that's entirely possible. Again, I believe everyone should hold physical gold. Hope to never sell it. Hope to never, hope to be able to pass it on to the next generations. But it's insurance. I was looking real quick to see if I could find that article. I can't find it. I know it was published yesterday on Zero Hedge. The other thing too, the thing that I question and think about is, I know that Russia and China are accumulating lots of gold month over month. And I don't know what the US is planning on doing, right? The US, I don't know, first of all, if how much gold they have. They supposedly we have the most gold in the world, but who knows that it's really there, or whether or not, it's been robbed, but from the powers that really be. Uh, I don't know what the US's end game is. It's like they're okay with transferring this gold to the East, and all they're do is basically printing out the dollar, and just really getting into more debt, and with higher interest payments. But I also kind of don't sleep on the U.S. as well. They must have a plan, right? So I don't know what it is, and I don't know who's on the right side of the trade, is what I'm getting at. Yep. Mima, thank you so much. Listen, I think it's a great time for us all to wrap up today. It's been a good session. And we're going to start a little early tomorrow. I'll be online tomorrow, right before NFP. So by around 8:20, 8:25 a.m. Eastern time. Anyone that's new, just joined us, I'm glad for it. Spend a few days here for sure. I know you'll find a new home. We have a really good thing going on with a great bunch of people, and we have a lot to offer. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone.